So, since my first Amazing Digital Circus video, I had people asking, begging, screaming, clawing at their screens, saying, hey, you should do Murder Drones as Pokemon. Funny thing, I don't know what that is. So, I had to do some research, had to look into it, and I spent 3 hours watching back to back every episode of Murder Drones. And I'm fine. I'm okay. I'm not scarred mentally. I'm not changed as a human being, unable to return back to the form that I once knew. I'm swell. But it's also given me enough ammo to be able to successfully, as I would like to put it, create Murder Drones as Pokemon. And that's what we're going to be doing in today's video. So without much further ado, let's hop right into that video. Hello and welcome to the channel. I'm the Thesterninator, but my friends call me Stern. So glad you could make it today. Don't forget while you're here to like, comment, subscribe, do all that fun stuff that makes me and YouTube happy, and let's hop right in. So what is Murder Drones? Well, it's like if My Life as a Teenage Robot and Ruby had a baby, and that baby was locked inside a Hot Topic, never to see the light of day. That about catches you up to speed on the whole concept, feel, and motif of the show. Except, of course, for the apocalypse, the robots, the murder, and the vague religious allegories all throughout. But all of that aside, if we're going to be drawing Murder Drones as Pokemon, we have to address the elephant in the room. The biggest problem, the biggest issue that I had to face with these designs, and that being, most of the characters look almost identical. Yes, they have different hair color, different eye color, couple variations on the clothing, but apart from that, they're all virtually the same. So, how do you make them all feel different? The answer that I came up with was, you don't. I decided to do a line that splits off in a couple different ways here for a lot of the main characters. Of course, varying from here to there on a couple of the different minor characters and monsters and things that I wanted to get across as well, but mainly, I wanted to focus on splitting them off. So to do so, I have to start with this base. It's very similar to what I did with the imps in our Hell of a Boss video. Starting with this base idea that gets a hold of every single one of those characters and simplifies them. I went with this little round type of dude who actually, as I was watching the series, found that those little like cowboy type droney guys that live underground look very similar, but this really gives us a base to build off of. Something that utilizes the colors, the visor style that we see with them, as well as this cutesy demeanor that I cannot wait to just traumatize as we move forward. You'll also notice that in this sketch I do things differently than what you'll see in the final render for some fun aesthetic reasons. But we'll get there when we get there. The other slightly smaller elephant in the room is that a lot of these characters have various forms. So the idea is, which form do you draw off of? Well, I decided that for this video, and just giving you fair warning before we get too into it, I'm not going to end up tackling a lot of characters, mainly some of my favorites and some of the more iconic. If you really like Murder Drones and really like what I've been doing with these characters, let me know in the comments. That tells me that you want to see more of this stuff. If I don't hear a ton from the comments, then I move on. You saw at the beginning of this video, I do read those comments, and I do take your ideas into consideration. So let me know. If you really want to get your idea out there, join the Discord so that I can have conversation with you about those ideas. But back to Murder Drones. This is Drone Didi. Drone Didi is a pure steel type. For that shiny, I went with this ghostly hologram blue, like we see the holograms throughout the series, and I really dig it. It's gonna evolve into some really strange and peculiar things. We're gonna get to look at a couple of them today, but yeah, really good base. I think its simplicity really allows it to mold as we move forward. Now, moving forward, I wanted to evolve this character. How to do so? There's a couple different options that we could take. My first one was I knew that no matter who I include in this video and who I don't include, Uzi has to make an appearance. But what separates Uzi from the rest of the characters? Well, being that I wanted to move into a lot of different directions with this, I thought the first thing would be that plasma rifle type thing, I'm forgetting the name or even if it has one, that we see in the first episode, making an appearance again in the last episode. So I decided to make this little creature evolve to have this blaster. Given that it's robotic, I wanted it to feel robotic, like an upgrade, an update of sorts. So I went with kind of adding and changing the shapes that already exist, adding on this blaster type of feel to the body that already was there, but maturing that body just a little bit, giving it some more cuts and indents to make it feel like it was an advancement on the initial idea, making it feel like it was an improvement. I also realize, and I'm gonna say it here because I know it's gonna happen in the comments, this feels a lot like Eve from WALL-E. I'm getting ahead of it before. I know it's gonna happen. I'm gonna have a lot of people saying, that looks a lot like Eve from WALL-E with Baymax's eyes, and I 100% agree with you. But it was a way to make this shape make sense, and if it harkens back to other designs, then that just tells me the design works. It's something that we've seen exist and seen to success, and yeah. I think it works. I like it a lot. I went with this weird eye shape of a line and a circle to almost emulate the idea of someone aiming this blaster. How you would squint one eye when shooting at something, and I think it's cute. I think it plays up this character's personality a lot, and I don't know. I can give you all sorts of reasons why I think it works or doesn't work. Truth is, it's just cool. It gives this character some personality, and it was something fun to play with to kind of give variation to those eye shapes. That was one of the other challenges that I faced here. How to change up the eye shapes, because the faces don't have a ton that they can do with this whole idea of what I was going for the concept of this character. The faces don't have a ton that they could do. So those eyes really had to speak for a lot of the character. They had to give it some form of personality that differentiated it from the other forms that I was going to be designing. So I went with this shape for the eye. I would love to see how this kind of works in the Pokemon anime, if something like this ever did exist, kind of paradox, not paradox, but I don't know. I love it. I think it's fun. I think it works. I think it looks like Buzz Lightyear. This is John Doozy, and for the shiny, I went with this red fleshy color, and I thought, this isn't enough. Let's make it bigger. So I created this second image to showcase how this blaster itself kind of evolves as this character learns to use the weapon. A play on Uzi's gun getting a new form when we see it in the last episode. Taking a break from the average robots that we've been working with, I remember seeing the Raptors, or the Sentinels as they're sometimes called, and thinking, this is so crazy different. This is such a drastic departure from these cutesy little circular rounded robots that we've been seeing between the actual robot characters and the murder drone hunter type of characters. They were so drastically different. I was like, that absolutely has to be its own line. And the more that I looked at these for reference, the more that I saw the details in them. Like, when I first watched the show, I didn't realize that they're not raptors. They have these fins coming out of the tops of their heads and the fins coming out of their backs. I have a friend named Quill who is a big dinosaur fan. I'm sure he will be in the comments letting me know what kind of dinosaur this is meant to represent. And I'm gonna be excited to hear it. Like I've said, I spend a lot of time down in the comments seeing what you guys have to say. Even if I don't have a response, trust that I see an awful lot of the comments. So I know that that answer will be down there. I just think they were so exciting. And if you've watched on Netflix the Jurassic Park Camp Cretaceous show, there are robotic dinosaurs which feel eerily similar to these. I don't know what it is. They hit a lot of the same concepts and ideas. So being a fan of that show and the newer iteration of Camp Cretaceous, that being Chaos Theory, I believe it's called, I am intimately familiar with this design. I love it. And so I went in, kind of fused those ideas together to create these robots. Probably also throwing in some Roboraptor, a really popular toy after the Robo Sapien from the early 2000s. I desperately wanted one as a kid. I never got the Roboraptor, but I did get the Robo Sapien, and I must say, it does not do all the stuff that it shows in the commercial. I'm gonna get off my soapbox. I have so many opinions about the Roboraptor and Robo Sapien toys, but this allowed me to kind of get that all out and say, well, if I did have one the way that I wanted it to be and act, I think it would look like this. Apart from the whole hunting me down for my organs thing that we see in the show, or just looking to destroy me for the sake of destroying me, I really, really like this design. Absolutely one of my favorites from this video. So this is Velocintel, Velociraptor, Velocity, and Intel, given that robot type of aesthetic. For the shiny, it has red eyes because you know how much I love my subtle shinies, and it is a steel dragon type. I love that so much. Very powerful, very strong. We get to see it take out a couple characters in the show, and I wanted to capture that in those stats. Before we move on, I want to remind you of an art challenge that I have going on right now called Pokémon Multiversal Drift. The idea is, think of a universe where things happened a little bit differently than how they happened in the canon universe of the show or the games. Maybe a universe where humanity evolved in the distortion realm. What would trainers and humans look like in that world? Maybe a world where an evil team won, or a character turned sides at some point in the story. Draw art and give me a little bit of background to this universe, whether that be on X, Blue Sky, Instagram, YouTube, or on my Discord, which is linked down below. Make sure that when you post this art across any of those social medias, that you tag it with #SternMultiDrift. That'll make it so that I can find those images. At the end of the months January, February, and March, I'll be doing videos where I showcase some of my favorites and go through the stories of how those universes came to be. I'll be honest with you, this is all playing into a much larger story that I'm very excited for, one that you could take part in. So head on down to the description, get more info, and for more info, head to my community tab or to my Discord. We have a lot of people who've been turning in some absolutely insane stuff that I am so excited to share with you. Like I said, I'll be sharing some of my favorites across the next couple months at the last video of those months, and I look forward to seeing you there. Now, without much further ado, let's hop back into the murder drones. With so many characters to try and get, and knowing that I wasn't going to hit every single one in this video, I had to indulge myself a little bit and get a hold of one of my favorite characters. Maybe not the best design, but absolutely my favorite personality. That being Alice, this mad doctor who's taking apart different bots that find their way into her lab. So I decided to draw her as one of the variations of our Droneditty Pokemon. And I dig her. I don't know why so much. It's just that mad scientist type of feel, that locked away. I think it's one of the reasons that I also love Spinel from Steven Universe. Just that locked away, what has happened to them, where is their mind at after all these years type of character. So I wanted to design that, make it fun, and so I gave it these antlers because those weird robotic antlers are such a defining trait to that character, and I wanted to make these feel like they were not so much antlers as much as these outcroppings of like metal, almost where you were able to plug in other wires. So I wanted it to feel kind of like that, have that robotic feel, give it some more wiring and things to make it feel like it was distressed, like it was older and maybe either falling apart or had pieces grafted onto it that weren't there initially. And you know me, I'm a big crab guy. I've had the question, hey Stern, how many times have you designed a crab Fakemon? I don't know the answer, but they say that every creature in the universe longs to evolve into crab, and so I gave this one crab claws, because if it's meant to be an evolution of these different pieces all coming together to be the most apropos version of a bot, why not crab? Why not add crab on there? So we've got antlers, we've got crab claws, we've got this weird hodgepodge of different aspects to this character that I think are a ton of fun. Something really crazy to play with that drastically changes the silhouette while still keeping a lot of the main body from the other iteration of this evolution. There were a lot of syllables in that sentence, and I want you to be proud of me for getting it on the first try. It's important to me that you let me know down in the comments that you're proud of me for getting so many syllables on the first recording of that. So this is Drondalis. Drondalis is a steel dark type. Dark obviously aligning itself with the evil type, but I don't subscribe to that train of thought. So it's just a steel dark type. Lives in the dark, does all that fun stuff. For the shiny, it with this more rusted out appearance, and gave it the same stat total that we saw with Dronedoozy, so that there's kind of this meeting of the minds between these types of designs. Next, we're going to jump into one of the characters known as the Hearts. Like I said, I just watched this show recently, and this was honestly one of the hardest ideas for me to grasp. This idea that these mechanical beings have these physical hearts within them. I actually had to go back and re-watch a couple different times the series from certain points to make sure that I kind of understood what was going on. It gets really complicated at the end of the show, and I have to wonder how much of that was because Amazing Digital Circus took off and so much energy had to be put to that show that pulled people away from the storyline of Murder Drones. I think it's a fantastic show. I just would have loved to see stuff carried out a little bit more so that the fan base could better understand what was going on. So we have these little characters, they're walking hearts, and they're also known as like these portions of Eldritch Abomination. The bigger, crazy versions of these characters, specifically Sin, goes by its regular form and its Eldritch form, and then its kind of conglomerated form. This is just the heart, and it's kind of where Sin is for part of the time. I believe also Uzi's mom is one for part of the time. I'm probably getting a lot of that wrong, but I need to go back and rewatch. I want to do more of these because the characters are so interesting, and it's a fun challenge to try and capture some of that stuff. But I do know I have to go back and rewatch a ton of this. I had been wanting and meaning to get onto Murder Drones for a while with this video. It seemed like a really good opportunity to do so, and I'm going to be learning as I go. So if we end up doing a second video, trust that I will have a lot more knowledge on this. I kind of treated this as our stand-in this week for our Wednesday video where I'm crunched on time and have to do an entire video in like 4 to 5 hours. So that's kind of where we're at with these. But I wanted to design this heart into this bug, moving it into that type of feel because it crab and we must draw crab. So we have Abominate, a mix between Might and Abomination. It is a bug type, and for the shiny, I went with this purplish color, much like Uzi's mom is colored that way throughout the story. Purple tends to be their family color, except for the dad, Mr. Dorman, who is orange and has a mustache. I should do that as a Pokemon. I don't know how I differentiate him, but mustache would be a big part. Moving on, I wanted this to evolve, and I thought, what better way to evolve it than going with that centipede, kind of creeping, irking type of character that we see with the Solver. And I wanted that to be a big part of this. I wanted it to be not only the Solver, but I wanted to mix in that Eldritch factor that we have with the antithesis character for the show. So I brought it all into this centipede type thing. Moving in also, rather than going with a full heart, being that it evolves from that heart Pokemon, I wanted the body to almost feel like a rib cage. Like a centipede mixed with a rib cage just felt interesting. Using the body almost like a spinal cord inspiration, and then these claws as the ribs that wrap around. It felt very much like the whole Eternatus type of feel, where Eternatus almost looks like a upside down skeleton. So I wanted to really grasp onto that and pull that into this type of feel. I love it a lot, getting the idea to incorporate something so dark like organs and a decayed body into something like Pokemon. That has ended up being the challenge for so many of these videos, is bringing something so dark and scary into the Pokemon world. And luckily, Pokemon already kind of does this. Like I said, we have Eternatus that looks that way. With the beta leaks, we saw a lot of terrifying stuff, and I'm not even talking about Typhlosion. I'm talking about some of the yokai inspiration that were dropped because they were most likely just too dark to include. But I digress from that. I really dig this design. I like it a lot. I feel like it's really inspired by that eldritch horror type of feel that we get throughout Murder Drones, especially just ramping in, hitting us like a freight train towards the end of the series. But like I do in all of my videos, I want to ask you guys for help here. If this is your first time watching one of my videos, then you'll be new to this whole thing, but if you've been watching, then you understand exactly what to do. Head down to the comments and let me know what abilities you think these Pokemon should have, whether those be already existing abilities or new abilities that you guys think of. You're just so much better at that than I am, and that's not me being facetious, that's me telling you the truth. I love hearing what abilities that you guys have, and I love knowing that creating these Pokemon is a collaborative effort between me and you guys, so Let me know down in the comments what you think it should be. Head on over to the Discord down below too, so that we can talk about more Pokemon stuff, more Five Nights at Freddy's stuff, heck, more Murder Drone stuff. We had a lot of conversation going on around Digimon, to the point that I realized I should probably just make a Digimon channel. So head on over, and if this ends up becoming something big that you guys want to talk about, you'll get your own channel and we can talk more about it. But for the moment, this is Eldripede, Eldritch and Centipede. It is a bug fighting type, and you know that you're going to be hunting down that shiny for the rest of your life. It is so cool. I wanted it to really feel like a legendary to this region, because it just feels absolutely perfect given its place in the story, and I wanted the stats to fully reflect that. And so that is Murder Drones. I really like the show, and I intend to do a little bit more. Being that the show's done, there's not a ton of characters who are going to be introduced, but the fact still stands. There are a lot of characters, a lot to turn into Pokemon, to change up the formula on how we've been doing this video. So, I look forward to it. Let me know down in the comments if you do too. If you liked this video, then like the video, and if you want to see more Murder Drone stuff, then let me know in the comments. I'll see you in the next one. Before we go, I want to thank you guys, our followers, subscribers, and supporters who help make this stuff possible. You guys are the absolute most. I can't believe how much that you guys are willing to support and help and just be cool people across the board. But especially a big McThankies from McSpankies to some of our higher tier supporters, that being Kaylin Cat, Soren Frost, Styx TV, Teacup Cryptid, Dan Bush, Tony F, Kofi supporter, and our newest addition to the family, that being Daniel. Thank you so much for joining and being a part of this community of supporters. You guys are phenomenal, and I hope that I'll see you in the next video. All right, I'll see you there. Bye.